about Square Enix. We're talking about Square Enix first. It kind of goes hand in hand, okay? So, as a lot of you guys are aware, I'm a big Square Enix fan, or at least I was anyway. Big time Final Fantasy fan, at least I was anyway. And avid player of Final Fantasy XIV. Okay, avid player of Final Fantasy XIV, or at least I was anyway. Until the latest expansion, Dawn Trail, which fucking A, I hate Dawn Trail with a passion. It is awful. It is garbage, and I can't stand it. Okay, I cannot stand it. And a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people do not like. They do not like Final Fantasy XIV's latest expansion. Now, when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, a lot of people feel, and with good reason, that Square Enix cannot afford another garbage expansion. And it's true. They can't. They can't afford another garbage expansion. If at any point they do release the next expansion, which there's rumors that they're going to be revealing it pretty soon. If they release this next expansion and it is not a banger that brings people back, then it's not looking good for this company. It just isn't, right? We have a headline here from Games Radar. It says Final Fantasy XIV cannot afford another failed expansion. According to the fans, as an unofficial census report, significant player drop ahead of the MMO's big 8.0 reveal. Now, Dawn Trail has by far probably the lowest players out of any expansion. All right? By far, the lowest players. It hasn't been very good. 2 months ago, they noted that a nice increase of 110 players, which brought the number of active folks from 820,000 to 930,000. Seems like good news, potentially marking a turning point from the poor reputation Dawn Trail still holds and the dwindling community. Now, though, Lucky Banjo reports that the number of active characters has significantly decreased by approximately 160,000 from that previous count of 930,000 to 770,000 players. It's important to note that there's some caveats to this figure. Of course, it's very much an unofficial census and one that Lucky Banjo gathers via public lodestone information like achievements, newly registered minions and mounts, as well as alterations in the character's HP, etc., etc. Now, with all that being said, right, I'm going to tell you like this. Again, if the next expansion does not do well, this game is fucking cooked, flat out. All right, it's fucking cooked. Looking at the graph, Final Fantasy XIV cannot afford another failed expansion. One player points out, saying Dawn Trail already lost 2/3 of its player base after peak of Endwalker. Another person states, now all depends on 8.0 trailer and the announcement. Even if they do decent 8.0, it cannot undersell. All in the hands of players' perception of the game. And they're not wrong. The next expansion can mark a massive change for the MMO, good or bad. Now, here's the thing, though. This game is underselling. This game is underperforming. This game is losing, honestly, a lot of players. But you know what Square Enix has decided to do? Instead of focusing so much on their game, Square Enix, as the amazing company that they are, they decided that it was in their best interest to start suing people. Yes, they're starting to sue people, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not kidding. They're starting to sue people, content creators, over supposed harassment. And it's not the first time they've done this. Apparently, if you guys remember, I reported on Square Enix saying that they updated their terms of service to essentially protect their developers from supposed harassment. Now, I don't really know if this is all encompassing because, again, these developers will consider you saying hello with a red t-shirt on as harassment. But again, you never know. But they decided that they're going to go and sue a content creator over supposed harassment because I've noticed that a lot of these companies that had cash cows before are now all suddenly becoming extremely litigious. Why is that? Why is it that these companies that had major cash cows that were bringing in all this money, when the money starts to dry up little by little, suddenly all these lawsuits start coming out? It's almost as if there's a pattern there. You know, we covered Blizzard, and I did a video today on Blizzard. If you missed it, go check it out. Talking about the entire situation with Turtle WoW and how Turtle WoW got officially shut down, as we all knew that was going to happen once the lawsuit started. And then not only that, they also shut down like 3 other private servers, and they're probably going after multiple other private servers as well. They just DMCA'd the entire Overwatch mod section of Ayaka mods. I mean, they're literally going around like crazy with massive amounts of lawfare trying to take down all these things that they don't like, right? Whatever the case may be. So I kind of want to see what's going on here, because again, apparently it's continuing its crackdown on the MMO's bullies. Again, when a journalist calls somebody a bully, they may or may not actually be one. I have to see what they actually did. So anyway, in March, the developer triggered Japanese fan blog Nitoge Sokuho's apologetic shutdown after claiming of its post harmed its staff reputation, and the blog's administrator was made to pay Square Enix an unspecified sum. This new situation is similar. Square Enix's official statement, translated both by Automaton and DeepL, reveals another apparently cooperative agreement where the unnamed content creator pays Square Enix a mysterious fee and promises not to offend the developer again. In its announcement posted April 20th, Square Enix says that it was pleased to report that it had found a user on an unnamed site was posting videos that are potentially damaging to Final Fantasy XIV developers' reputations. Again, I don't know what those videos are. Like, what videos could they possibly be? I don't think they link to them. I don't think they actually show them. Which again, I'm not surprised they don't actually show any of them. Let me see what the official statement says. Notice regarding to the publication of response to harassment against our officers and employees. All right, I'll cover that in a second. So now, covering all of that, they again were pleased to report that they had found a user unnamed on an unnamed site was posting videos that were potentially damaging. The user had now had both their videos and account removed, paid a settlement fee, and apologized. Square Enix asserts that its March 9th policy against acts of harassment against our employees and reminds Final Fantasy XIV players that they're allowed to express their sometimes unsavory opinions, but threats of harm lobbed at employees would not be tolerated. Now, how much of this, think about it this way, how much of this harassment that they're supposedly undergoing, how much of this harassment is actually threats of harm? Like, I'm talking about real threats of harm. I'm sure there's some, right? I'm sure there's some psychos out there because we all see it, right? We all see these psychos that take the internet way too fucking serious. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to do a death threat because I feel edgy today, right? I feel real edgy today, right? But how many of that is actually that? And how much of it is actual real discourse that is being silenced through lawfare? I got to imagine that probably 90+% of it is most likely just discourse that they didn't like, or discourse that perhaps went a little bit too close to the truth, or whatever the case may be. I feel like that's really where this is going. And I don't really see too much evidence of this supposed harassment. I also believe that they kept it under wraps during the lawsuit. They really didn't, expose it too much for public information because they didn't want the employees to get, I guess, harassed further or whatever the case would be. So Square Enix then decided to reiterate that it will continue to pursue legal action against those that it deems harassers when necessary, while developers will keep trying to make quality games. You guys are not making quality games. I'm sorry, brother. You guys are not making quality games. It's unfortunate, but it's true. You guys are getting fucking owned by everybody else who's making RPGs. It's sad. Almost everybody else. You guys used to be the kings. You used to be the fucking kings. And then what you started doing was you started listening to Western consultants. That's where you fucked up. You started listening to Western consultants. And then for some reason, you believed in your mind that you had to make games with a Western ideology in mind in order for you to be able to be a successful company moving forward in the future. It's unbelievable to me that Square Enix, the people behind Final Fantasy, thought that they had to make their games Westernized for them to be successful into the future, when the whole reason why they got to where they were in the first place was because they were making video games that the Western people were already playing that were inherently Eastern video games anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck are you, what are you saying? What are you doing? Right? This is the whole reason why Forspoken became a video game. Forspoken became a game because they were convinced that they had to make a game like that. They were convinced that we wanted that the Japanese wanted that. Guess what? Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that. That's why the game flopped. That's why the studio's dead. That's why you lost so much money on that. Hundreds of millions of dollars on that game. And for what? Why? Right? So, I don't know, man. I find it ironic that they're talking about making quality games when their latest expansion is garbage. Their Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 sold half of the first one. It's because they couldn't rely on the bait and switch that made the first one successful in the first place. The third one's probably going to sell the same as the second one, if not a little bit less than that, or maybe a little bit more, because now it's obviously the ending. So people want to experience that, whoever played the remakes. But again, Like, you guys are nowhere near in the position to be talking all this shit that you're talking and threatening these lawsuits and stuff like that when you have the worst expansion you ever had. Your Final Fantasy VII remake has been a disaster for the most part after the first one. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Anyway, so that's all there is to it. While Square Enix prepares Final Fantasy XIV's promising 7.5 update for its April 28th launch, the company's legal team is clearly doing a supposed good job of training its detractors to walk with their tails between their trembling legs. Bro, these journalists, they get off on that shit, man. They get off on it. It's really actually hilarious. But then when their company gets sued, they want to be like, but we're journalists. We have protections. Yeah, okay. For example, a day after Nitoge Sokuho went down in March, the blog Umadori Sokuho voluntarily pulled its own oxygen cord after having reconsidered the weight of responsibility involved in disseminating information online. It said issuing an apology to all the Final Fantasy XIV development and operations staff, whom I have inconvenienced, unprompted. So you're happy that people are self-censoring themselves because they don't want to deal with your shit? Or the company's shit? I mean, of course you are, right? These are fucking communists at the end of the day. Of course they are. At the end of the day, man, listen, Final Fantasy, I'm going to just go back and I'm going to say this. You can talk all this shit. You can sue whoever you want to sue. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to save your company is you pulling your heads out your asses and making an expansion for Final Fantasy XIV that's actually going to bring people back. If you don't do that, game over. Flat out, game over. And I got to be honest with you, I think a lot of people are going to cheer your demise. I really do. Because I don't know how many times people have tried to tell you, what the fuck are you doing? People have tried to explain to you that this is not what we want, and you keep listening to the wrong people. You keep listening to the people that your executives tell you to listen to. I get it. I get it. They get paid their bonuses, whatever. I get it. But you're listening to the wrong people, and people are going to cheer your demise once you go down. So this next expansion, this is make or break, man. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to be that great. I have a sneaking suspicion. It might be better than Dawn Trail, but I feel like it's still not going to be that great. You know what I mean? Like, just extremely mid. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that's the story with Square Enix and what's going on with